We are very excited today to announce the release of our first DLC pack, downloadable content, and this pack is the Yellowstone Wolf Pack. And in today's patch 106N, you can preview these coats. Just go to the customization panel and scroll down, and you can see all 15 of these coats and see how they look on your wolf. So we've got 3 sets of 5 coats here. We started off when we were thinking about this pack. We wanted to look at the founders of the Yellowstone wolf population, some of those 41 wolves that were brought down south from northern reaches to Yellowstone in 1995 and 96 to repopulate the park with this apex predator. And so we've got 5 of these now, 7F, 9F, 10M, all these small numbers, and that's the first set. But we found when we were doing this that there aren't a lot of great photos of those wolves. This is before cell phone cameras and everything, 1995, 96. So there are some photos, but not the kind of documentation that we need to make good coats. But then as we were doing it, of course, we've come across lots of photos of other wolves, famous wolves over the years. And so we decided to do 5 more in the Hall of Fame set. And so these have famous wolves like 06 and Casanova, a whole documentary about Casanova and his roamings around to try to find a mate. Spitfire, aptly named, was seen driving an elk off a 100-foot cliff. And then, of course, there are other wolves that aren't particularly famous in any reason, but just have cool coats. And so we've got 5 more of those. Big Blaze. Look at that. Isn't that something? So 15 coats. You can check them all out. And if you want to know more about their stories, click on this little button here when you've got one of those coats selected, and you can go to the knowledge base. We have a new page on our knowledge base, which has a little bio of each of these wolves, the real wolves, and read about them. Some really cool stories, sometimes sad stories, but very interesting stories about these wolves. So if you're sold and you want to buy it, there is obviously a button to buy it here. And we have 2 mechanisms to buy it. One, if you've purchased the game on the wolfquest.org site or on itch.io, you go to itch.io to make the purchase. And then we don't want you to have an itch.io account. So we just use the WolfQuest game account. So that is necessary to have a WolfQuest game account if you're playing this version of the game. And you need to be able to log in after making the purchase so we can register that purchase with your account. So I won't show my password. But you click buy, it takes you to itch.io. You make the purchase, and after a minute or so, it should show up in the game. If you're on Steam, it's simpler. You don't need a WolfQuest game account. Just click the button there. It'll take you to Steam, make the purchase, and the game just checks Steam every time you run it to see if you've got the purchase. Okay, so I've now made the purchase on my account. Go back in. Might take a minute to show up, and there we go. Now I have all these coats. Now, another thing I want to mention here is, we have some brown coats and some gray coats and some black coats and some very light color coats. But using the game genetics with the K-locus and stuff I've talked about in the past, we have the genetic coat color for these listed here. And for some of these, it starts off gray, and if you go darker at some point, it turns, where is it? There we go, right there. It turns to black. And this is sort of a crude approximation of how these things really work, because obviously these wolves, this coat is a gray coat or it is a black coat, and brown counts as gray with this gene. But we want to give flexibility to players. But with these coats, because many of these wolves, they had radio collars, they had their blood sampled, and this K-locus was identified on them. So for example, 42F, Cinderella, or 755M, those actual wolves had black coats. They're just old, and wolf coats turn lighter as the wolf ages. If you look at photos of these wolves, if you can find photos when they're younger, they're going to have a much darker coat. So they became famous as they were older, and so their coats are much lighter. But we decided to honor the actual animal here. And so these that are known to have genetically black coats are black no matter what your tint is. So you can still do the tint to match your aesthetic preference, but they are genetically black. So if you make the purchase, then you can choose any of these coats for your own wolves and any new game you start. These coats will be eligible to be assigned to any dispersal wolves you may meet. That won't affect existing saves that you have, because all that stuff is defined when you create a new game. So you'd have to start a new game to start seeing these show up on dispersal wolves. Pack wolves will not get these. They all are predefined and have coats assigned from the core pool of coats. If you start a new game and go onto Slough Creek and have purchased it before starting that game, these coats will be in the pool for your pups to choose from. So if you have pups and then later on, after finishing Slough Creek, you grow up your pup and see them as adult, you might see some of these coats on some of your pups. So patch 106N is out now with the DLC, so get it and check them out, and we hope you'll buy it. All proceeds do support further game development. And one other thing, last week we asked players to submit gameplay screenshots that we could use for marketing purposes, and we got lots of submissions, lots and lots of really great shots. And it was tough to narrow down, but we have picked about a dozen or so that we're going to use. So thanks to everybody who submitted these, and we've contacted those who submitted ones that we've selected to see if you want to get the soundtrack or the Coat DLC. So thanks again to everybody for their support and enthusiasm for WolfQuest.